Peak Wealth Management proudly presents the Trust the Plan podcast with Nick Hopwood and Jim Pilat, where we believe by providing education and guidance, we can help you retire with peak confidence. Now, here are your certified financial planners, Nick and Jim.
Welcome to the Trust the Plan podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Jim.
And this is my bottled joy.
Yeah.
It's like a gallon of water. It has some coloring in there, put some flavoring in to help choke it down. Jim, I had my other bottle, but we couldn't reach in to clean it. Mm-hmm. And so it got really dirty, and my wife got mad and threw it away.
Yeah. They don't like dirty stuff.
Right. She's like, you're drinking like mold and mildew, and I'm like, well, I need to drink water.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's fine. So she threw away the other one. So then I got this one, and the way you clean this, you can't reach your hand in there, but the way you clean it is with a baby bottle brush. So I had to buy a baby bottle brush as well. So that's the deal. Okay.
Probably cheaper to buy a baby bottle brush than a new jug every couple weeks, right?
Right. Yeah. So the reason why I really wanted to get a new one is because when I did my blood work, it came back a little dehydrated, which was really surprising because I've always made an effort. Mm-hmm. So I'm renewing my water chugging efforts. So okay.
That's all today, huh?
Yeah, I'm actually behind because right now it's 2:30 and I'm kind of like just after 1 p.m. So I got to do more. Got to do better. All right. So let's see. Today we're talking about our retirement checklist. Okay. So what to do at different points in time when we're thinking about retirement. So Jim, what do we think about 20 years out?
20 years
for
out.
our young folks like Preston here.
20 years out, I mean, I think you got to be thinking about, am I doing the right things? Am I saving enough money? Am I setting up my investments, to put myself in a position to live off them down the road? Because like we talked about last week, time, right? Time is either your best friend or your worst enemy. If you have time on your side, let compounding take over.
The more I think about this, if you're going to retire like, say, 60, 65, this is like 40, 45-year-old, right? I'm 45. And I'm like, you know what? This shouldn't say 20 years. It should say like 40 years.
Yeah.
So when you're 22 and you've got your first job, I want you to be trying to save as much as you can.
Yeah. The numbers are staggering, right? It's how much you need to save if you start at 22 versus 42.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So anyway, this should say like 20 plus instead of just 20 years out. So
I'll buy that.
Yeah. So we're editing on the fly here. All right. So I agree with you. We want to do as much as we can, and the earlier the better. And now 15 years, make sure your mortgage is on track to be paid off at the end of work. Mm-hmm. We talked about that last week, right?
We did. Last week we talked about that in depth, but it makes so much sense. Small extra payments now, are so much more impactful than having to do it later. So I think the other thing, you got me thinking about when we talk about the mortgage, maybe we could put this in the 20 plus year category as well, though. But, our peak income 360, we talk about rental real estate and things like that. And that would be a great time to start looking into that and saying, is this a right fit for me? Is this something I would be good at? And do I want to start lining up those properties to kind of be my pension in retirement?
Absolutely. Peak income 360 is the most underrated thing in the world. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say we don't talk about it enough, and it should be top of mind every day. And we're saying here on the 20-year max out this and max out that, but really it should be save and invest as much as you can. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter if it's real estate or 401s or stocks or whatever. Invest as much as you can, so then your money will be working for you, and it can work so you don't have to work anymore at some point. And part of the Peak Income 360 is do all that, plus make sure that you're going to be debt-free. You don't have to be debt-free today, okay? But, like I was saying last week, hey, I've got a couple of these mortgages out there. So I'm not debt-free, but I will be. My plan will work, okay? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think, we're just kind of rehashing Income 360. Now, within 10 years, and again, this is something that I would like you to start earlier,
Mhm.
you know, preferably like when you're in your 20s. But the
Right.
cost of living, you know, it's just maddening how people do not know how much they spend.
Yeah.
It's like a human, what's the term I'm looking for?
It's like a sickness, really.
Okay, all right. I wasn't going to go that far, but it's a sickness.
But it's so true. I mean, every time we have conversations with people about spending, they say, use this as my living expense number, right? And then we get through and we do the planning and we say, okay, based on that living expense number and this income number, we should have $2,000 a month extra. Does that sound right? And they go, oh, no, not even close, maybe $200. Okay, we're spending more than we think we are. So I think you're right. You can't start expense tracking too soon.
Like I kind of feel like 10% of the people do it right.
Yeah, there's a few. There's always a few who are pretty spot on, but for the most part, everybody significantly underestimates
Significantly, yeah.
what they spend.
So if you don't know how much you're spending, how do you know what to plan for?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can go on all day like this.
I know. I just got a question last volleyball tournament we were at. Guy said, "Oh, you're a retirement planner. Tell me, what's the number? What do I got to get to?" It's the most impossible question to answer because I have no idea until I know what your cost of living is.
Before there were blogs, I wrote a blog post that
Mm-hmm.
said, "I have $1 million in my portfolio. Is that enough?"
Mm-hmm.
And the theme of the article was, "I don't know.
Right?
I don't know because it all depends on how much you spend
Yeah.
and whether or not you have a very large Social Security or any pension at all.
Right.
You know, those kinds of things. But again, the analogy I would use with the map, right? Like, how do you know when you're going to get there if you don't know where you're going? You know what I mean? Like, you have to have specific coordinates, etc. So now, as we're getting closer to retirement, like 5 years, we call that the retirement red zone. I think that might be trademarked by Prudential, so hopefully we don't get a nasty gram. But like in that red zone, it should be becoming real.
Yeah.
Okay, this is when a lot of times people will reach out to us,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "I'm thinking about retirement in the next few years," and they realize they need help. They
Yeah.
realize they don't know. They think that they're doing the right thing, right? But there's a lot of maybe optimizations they can do. They need to double check, right? A second opinion.
Yeah, I think definitely you definitely want to connect with an advisor by that point in time. Ideally, you have sooner, right? Because all these other things that we're talking about. But within that 5-year stretch, I mean, it's halfway through the fourth quarter, right? We need to know: are we on track? Are we in a good position to win this game, or do we need to make some hurry up plays? Do we need to, all hands on deck to get us there?
You know, it's kind of like in the Rose Bowl this year. Michigan was down by 7 with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. What'd they do? They ran that hurry up offense, right?
Yeah.
Right down the field for that touchdown. Okay, so we're going to do our catch up contributions. Maybe start to set up the expectation of a hard stop or a semi-retirement. Okay, which is like really a popular way to go now. And then as we're just on the eve of retirement, any loose ends, we have to take care of that, right? Any little outstanding nagging debts, any big purchases that we need to make, we got to do it now while we have the income.
Yeah, if you can finish the kitchen remodel while you're working, if you can, pay off that car while you're working, like all those things are huge. We talked in other podcasts, not too far ago, that the more flexibility you have in retirement, the more things that are paid off, the more options you have, and the less stressful retirement would be.
We have to make sure that we're on track with our healthcare decisions, Medicare. We used to say it's hard to retire before 62 because that's when you can start Social Security. But now it's hard to retire before 65 because of the Medicare situation.
Yep.
Unless you can manipulate your income and get a monster Obamacare subsidy like Preston and I talked about maybe like 10 episodes ago. Also, Social Security. I think when I started, like everyone took it at 62. It was like that's what you did. But
Right.
we have a different view on that now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a great time to look at it and understand what your number is at 62. What is it at 65? What is it at 70? You know, how will cash flow look? Are you going to do a semi-retirement and give you an opportunity to prolong that Social Security and let it grow? Because it grows at like 8% a year.
So this is, by no means not a comprehensive list, but some real high-level talking points, okay? So let's change gears for a second now and go to the 4 questions that we want to ask ourselves, which deal with money, but mostly not money-related. And it's from our friend Keith Lawrence, the book that they wrote, over 10 years ago now, Your Retirement Quest.
Yeah.
So my favorite non-money retirement book, Your Retirement Quest. If you haven't read it, we can get you a copy. So number 1 is, do I have enough money? And, let us help you with that, right?
Yeah, that's what we spend a lot of time talking about that with people, and a lot of the checklist that we just went through has to do with money and money decisions, but not the end all with that retirement decision.
And number 2, have I accomplished what I want with my career? In other words, did I get to the level that I was shooting for? Did I finish this particular big project that, I want to complete?
See through, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Do you have something that you want to accomplish in your career, right? Putting you on the spot. So we have to make sure that, a lot of, especially men, right? Our identity is with our career, right? And so you want to be able to look back on that and be proud of it.
Yeah, feel good that you've accomplished what you wanted.
Yeah.
Gotten to a place in your career where you felt like you've done what you wanted to do.
Yeah. And for some people, they have so much success, right, that continued success doesn't do anything for them, right? It doesn't move the needle. And so they want to go from success to significance. And so now it's like a career 2.0. Maybe it's like something with volunteer or something like that related, where you want to be significant in the community rather than just in your business,
Right.
So number 3, what will I do with all my free time in retirement? So this is what people think about, I'm going to have 40 plus hours of time to fill. But then when we, like a lot of people who are, successful in retirement, meaning like they have stuff to do, they say, I don't know how I had time to work.
Yeah.
Right? Because now they're so busy. And I love to hear that, because usually they smile and they're happy when they say it. But there are people, that retire to the couch.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important question, because most people you ask that to, they'll say, oh, don't worry, I'll be fine, And then it's great sitting on the couch or playing golf for a week or 2, right? But beyond that, it starts to wear on you, the golf. You don't feel so good after playing, 5 days a week. You start getting sore, and you don't want to, or whatever,
If you do the same thing every day, and you get tired of it. There's no question.
Too much of anything, a good thing or a bad thing can be too much.
That's right. And so, if that's all there is, like, is this it? Then you could fall into disenchantment, depression, and you have to find a way, to get out of that.
Get you re-energized,
right?
And find
Reinvigorated,
some new hobbies and hobbies and stuff.
And so, if you do fall into disenchantment, what Keith writes about is, oftentimes the way that people get out of that phase is by connecting with others. Right? Last week we talked about that Carnegie quote, and the theme was connecting with others. So oftentimes that's the case, right? And so if you find yourself in that position, right, go join a club. Just get out of the house and go volunteer somewhere. Just do something.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like we said with the quote, most people who have been successful tend to be good with people. So if you pull that away from them, that's probably leaves a pretty good void.
And number 4, is my spouse on board with my decision? I remember in 2016, my wife, she got pregnant with Quinn, and she's like ready. She says she wants to stay at home, and I was not on board.
Right.
I was definitely not on board. but she's at home, so
Yeah. So
it's amazing how it works.
She won, yeah.
Yeah, she won. No, but I remember learning, talking to someone who's more mature and more wise than I, and his name's Jim, and he said, "You know what? The same thing happened to me, and you're gonna be fine. You're gonna work harder and have success and make up for it, and your family's gonna be great." And it was really good advice.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it took me some time, I was on board, and who knows how that conversation will go for me in 20 years or whatever.
Right.
But usually, it's a life. Again, in the book, Your Retirement Quest, they make the point that you have major decisions in your life, right? Like who you're going to marry.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very important. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but this is one of those decisions that's up there, right? Like, am I ready to retire? And who should Who should be helping you make that decision? Your spouse,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it changes the dynamics of the relationship, right? Whereas you say goodbye in the morning and welcome home in the afternoon or evening, there's a lot of time in between there now that you need to be on the same page with.
All right. So those are the 4 questions. We steal these from Your Retirement Quest, which we recommend. We can provide a copy if you're interested. Jim, anything else to close us out here?
I mean, to me, just kind of going over it and thinking about the checklist is just a good reminder to keep forward looking, keep talking with your advisor, keep, am I on track? It's always am I on track? It doesn't mean you have to be out of debt tomorrow, but am I on track to be out of debt in 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, we could write that on every line here is, update the plan, make sure the plan works, right? And it's a fluid plan, and at every phase, it's going to look different. Every year, it's going to look different, but you just got to keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for watching and listening. If you have a portfolio of over $500,000 and you're looking for a second opinion on your plan or your portfolio, please reach out to us at peakwm.com.
Peak Wealth Management thanks you for watching and listening to the Trust the Plan podcast, featuring certified financial planners Nick Hopwood and Jim Pilat. If you enjoyed our program, please subscribe and share. If you'd like to learn more about our services, please visit peakwm.com. peakwm.com today. See you next week.